Right. Good morning, everybody. This is a meeting of the county Department of Planning and Building Services to go over the county's mining ordinance update. So, I don't know, do we have anybody online?
Yes, we do, actually. We have a Jay Gomez and an Amy Tapalio.
Okay. So, do you want to go ahead and pop the,
You want to put it in?
yeah, put it
Okay.
in for the discussion.
Okay. Very good. With him. Gotta get close to the mouse.
Okay.
Sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good
Hi,
morning.
Jennifer.
And I also see Amy Taglio. Hi, Amy. You're on mute right now. You go ahead and unmute and tell us who you're with. Okay, we'll come back to that.
Okay.
So, you got the PowerPoint up?
Yep.
All right, so let's just go through that so that everybody who's online can see what's going on.
There you go.
All right, just click it to the,
Maximize it.
maximize it to the presentation. Right down to the little, Okay, here we go. All right, so put together a little PowerPoint to walk everybody through this process. So the Department of Planning and Building Services, County of Mendocino, is undertaking an update of the SMARA ordinance, which is now way overdue. Last updated was in 1999. So welcome everybody. And I'm Nash Gonzalez, the interim Assistant Director who will be overseeing the update to the ordinance. And we have,
Hi, I'm Dirk Larson. I manage our SMART program here locally.
and then in the room, we also have some guests, miners. And Larry, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Larry Tenzie, Tenzie Corey. Stephen Tenzie, Tenzie Corey.
And then online, and we have Jennifer Gomez with Vulcan, and I also saw Amy. Did you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Okay, probably not. So I'm just going to run through a quick presentation of what we're doing. And we're trying to be as transparent as possible through this entire process. And why is the county updating its ordinance, mining ordinance, chapter 22-116? So basically it comes down to the ordinance, the current ordinance was certified by the State Mining Geology Board on March 12, 1999. Resolution number 99-02, ordinance number 4031. And again, there's been some significant changes to SMARA since 92. However, we updated the ordinance in 99, but again, we captured the 92, 93 changes. But then we come forward to 2008, 2013, 17, and 18, and then again in 2020 when SMARA was updated. Because of all these changes, the county has decided to update its ordinance because it has now become outdated. So the Surface Mining and Reclamation Act, specifically section 2710, requires that each city and county have a valid ordinance within its jurisdiction and adopts that ordinance to review reclamation plans, mining permits, and so on for the administration of its mining program.
Yes, can I interrupt?
Yes.
I can't see the full screen there.
Or if you could move the, Jim,
The window.
if you could move the window that's, the Zoom window off to the side.
Yeah, I don't have it on my screen, that's.
Oh,
It's not sharing for a minute.
yeah, so. Hello. You're here for the SMART meeting?
Yep.
Okay,
There's a sign in sheet.
we can just sign in. So we have some technical issues. We're trying to put the PowerPoint on the screen so everybody can
Sorry to
see.
interrupt you.
No, that's all right. That's what we're here for, is so you capture everything. And then we'll be posting the PowerPoint online as well, so you can download it. But it just basically gives you the reasons why we're updating the ordinance. Actually, if you could just pop it back up again.
It's okay.
Yeah, keep.
Yeah, we'll just keep it, pop it back again.
There it is.
Okay, it's not there on the screen.
Share screen.
Just share the screen. And while you're doing that, if you ladies can introduce yourselves and tell us who you're with.
Gina Pardini, it's in mine. No,
Oh, okay,
okay. She's just here.
okay.
It's my mom.
I just want to-
Nice to meet you.
In person, but
I didn't sign it, do I need to sign?
We'd like to capture everybody that's here.
Just bear.
That's okay, Rich.
Somebody's at the bottom.
Gina.
So just go back to the presentation.
Nice to see you. Super fair.
Oh, right.
All right, so for those of you online, sorry that we are having technical difficulties here.
Okay, it's fine. Start
It's
sharing.
it's not up there yet. All right, well, go ahead and move the PowerPoint forward.
What do you want me to go to that page?
Or we can start again. As long as we have the PowerPoint up.
So I did start.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyway, we went through introductions, and I think for everybody's benefit, if you ladies could just introduce yourselves so that people online can know who you are.
did
Gina
you,
Pardini.
Maybe a little louder.
Gina Pardini.
Judith Couriers.
All right, and you're representing which mining operation?
It's Robert Pardini logging. Johnson one in Blue Mill.
Okay, so Dirk introduced himself. I'm Ash Gonzalez. I said I'll be primarily taking over this ordinance update. And just a quick recap. The question is, why are we updating the county's ordinance? The county's ordinance has become outdated. the state has made significant changes to state law, mining law, since 2008, 13, 17, 18, and 20, major changes in the state legislature. Because of the changes, that has made our county ordinance outdated. We last updated our ordinance back in 1999, March of 1999, and was certified by the state back then. Because of all the changes, our ordinance is now outdated. So the state law requires that every city and county who has a mine update their ordinance periodically and make sure that it's a valid ordinance. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we're in total compliance with state law. And I can share with you that last week, on Thursday, the State Mining and Geology Board adopted the new guidance document, which triggers the requirement for the state to send out letters to every city and county who is a lead agency when it comes to mining, and there's 96 of us out there that will be receiving letters from the state that require us to update our ordinance. So far, there are 2 ordinances in the queue, and 1 has already been certified this last year. So we're hoping to submit our ordinance very soon. The whole idea is that what we wanted to make sure is that we have an outreach to the mining community to let you know what we're doing, our approaches, and so on. And so again, our ordinance was adopted and certified in 1999, and all we're trying to do is make sure that we're in compliance with state law. So specifically, Assembly Bill 1142 and Senate Bill 209, which were signed by the governor in 2013, required changes and responsibilities under SMARA, basically requiring clarifications and content of rec plans. So they now have on the state website a checklist of everything that has to go into a reclamation plan. A lot of that we have captured in our ordinance, but there's a lot of those things that we still need to come back and make sure that we address all those issues. And that's just for the reclamation plans. It also will affect what we call section 221608 in our county ordinance, where we have to be much more specific about reclamation plans. And then the changes to SMARA also provide a more defined process and timelines for the review of financial assurances. I think for everybody's benefit, Dirk goes out, does the inspections every year. He then tells you that a face is due 30 days after the inspection. And then once you submit your face, the county then has a total of 90 days to submit the inspection report along with the face to the state for their review. The state has 45 days to comment on the face to see if they agree with the county. And then once that is done, the county would then approve the face if the state concurs. And that's the financial assurance cost estimate for this coming year. And then once that's done, the county would expect to see a revised financial assurance mechanism 30 days from the date the face is approved. Once that is submitted to the state and to the county concurrently, because in the old days, and Larry can appreciate this, Larry would come in and hand me his CV or his bond, and then I would take a copy of it, approve it, send it to the state. Now what the state wants is that the operator submit to both the city, to both the county and the state concurrently for a 15-day review. So the state reviews it at the same time that the county reviews it. And that is submitted, and then if both agree, they both approve, and that completes the process. That process is not in our current ordinance. The state wants us to have that whole process codified in the ordinance, the step-by-step process. So that's what makes our ordinance outdated. So all these specific review periods are not in there, and that's what requires section 22.16.120 of our ordinance to be updated. Another change that became effective January 1 of 2018 now requires the lead agency, upon approval of a rec plan or an amendment to a rec plan, to record a notice of reclamation plan approval with the county recorder. So in essence, what that does is there's specific language that gets recorded on the property that is affected by the reclamation plan. So if a mine operator comes in today and says, I want to amend the rec plan, or I want to submit a new rec plan, once that document is approved by the county now has to record this notice of rec plan approval. Why did all this happen? It's called disclosure laws, because people were complaining that they weren't aware of mining operations on certain properties. This now allows somebody to do a title search and say there's a mine that's been approved for that site. That now has to be formalized in the county's ordinance. Again, we've been doing that since 2018. It just isn't in the ordinance. Another change necessary to our ordinance is many of these have changed due to current practices as well as SMARA. So in essence, we have been doing all of these changes to SMARA actively in the department, whether it's the review of the FACES, FAMs, or recordation of these disclosures, or even the way we process our rec plans. It's just that they're not codified. We now need to capture everything in the ordinance. Another question that is asked is, as a mine operator, how does this affect my operation or me as the company? If you currently are operating under an approved rec plan and use permit, there's no changes to to you, as the county has been operating under the current statutes as well. And so there's no change to you because you're already subject to the changes. And even if you're submitting a new application for a new rec plan or an amendment, you still have to conform to all the state statutes. So really, there's no major changes that you're going to see. And then I can also tell you that we are not making the ordinance any more restrictive than state law. All we're doing is capturing all those changes that have occurred and we're codifying in the ordinance. So, as I've mentioned, we've been practicing everything that the state wants us to do since 2018. We've captured all those things in the processes that either I've done or Dirk does to do this, but they're not captured in the ordinance. The state wants every ordinance to be updated. So the question is, what happens now? So we have this stakeholder meeting today. And again, the county is trying to be as transparent as possible to let you know what we're doing and how we're going to approach it. The county will prepare its draft ordinance. In fact, I'm working on the ordinance right now to address all those changes. After the ordinance has been prepared, we will go ahead and take a draft of that ordinance and submit it to the state SMGB or the State Mining and Geology Board staff for their review. We're going to submit it to them for comments, early consultation. We don't have to, but we're going to go through that process. We're going to say, here's our draft ordinance. Can you take a look at it? Do you have any comments? And so on. Once we get comments and feedback from them, we'll go ahead and incorporate anything that is required by state law into the ordinance, and at that point, we will then put together a final draft for public review. At that point, we can release the ordinance to everybody. You know, all of you as mine operators, we will post it on the county's website. We'll have it available for review. And what we plan on doing is something like this, and you know, for those of you online, all we're going to do is a red line, underline, and strikeout type of ordinance that shows the changes in red and everything that's being deleted or removed in strikeout format. And then that will be what will go to the Planning Commission and what will go to the Board of Supervisors, so they can see before and after what we're making the changes to. And then we will take the ordinance to the Planning Commission, because the Planning Commission has the authority to approve reclamation plans for their recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. Then, once we've got the feedback from the Planning Commission, from the Planning Commission goes to the board. Board has a hearing on it, and if the board adopts the ordinance, then we turn around and submit the ordinance for certification to the State Mining and Geology Board. And once the ordinance is certified by the SMGB, we now have a certified ordinance per Public Resources Code section 2774.3, and then we're done. We don't need to do anything else. But again, all we want to do is capture all those requirements that we've already been doing and put them in the ordinance. That's all we're doing. We're not going to throw any surprises in there. We're not going to add anything. We're not going to do anything that is going to make your life more difficult. We're just taking those items that are already required and put them in the ordinance. And so with that, the question also begs, do you have any input into this process? Yes, that's why we're here today, so you can ask questions. You'll have the opportunity for input at the Planning Commission, input at the board. Again, keep in mind, we cannot make the ordinance less restrictive than the state, but we can make it equivalent, that's about it. But we're not going to make it more restrictive. We can't make it less, but we have to be equal to the state. And so, again, finally, steps, prepare the ordinance, early consultation with the SMGB. We'll prepare an environmental document for the ordinance under CEQA, schedule the draft for Planning Commission hearing. Based on the comments and recommendations by the Planning Commission, prepare a final ordinance to be heard by the board. Board would adopt, and then we would then take it to the State Mining Geology Board for certification. So preparing the ordinance, we're looking at worst case scenario, end of October. Best case scenario, I would say the first week or two of October, submitting to the State Mining and Geology Board. That's how quickly we're looking at getting this thing done. We don't want anything to hold up any of our processes in this county. And so with that, does anybody have any questions? Feel free to ask.
Nothing's gonna change.
Business as usual.
Business as usual.
Okay,
You're already in process, you already have a permit, nothing changes. Everything that is going on today is already in state law. That's what's being done. So the processes that Dirk runs you through every year, where he does the inspection, he asks for the faces, all of that is what we have to capture in the ordinance. So no changes. Larry, do you have any questions?
Yeah, the biggest concern I have is just the annual fee, it just continually changes, it continually goes up, and why is that not
So there's two fees.
firm, because it's never clear, it just changes.
So there's two fees out there. One, there's a fee to the state for the annual report that you submit to them.
Right.
Okay, we have no control over that. And then the fee for the inspections and the whole process is set up by the Board of Supervisors. And it's basically to recover the cost of the mining program. And so every year or every couple of years, there's a fee increase that takes place. And again, the department, is asked by the board and asked by the CEO's office every year to evaluate fees, and they submit what is the cost of doing business, and those are the fees that get adopted by the board. So we don't have any control over that as part of this ordinance update. The only thing that SMARA says is that counties and cities have the ability to recoup their fees. That's all it says. And so the county does do that. It applies a fee that applies to everybody. But this ordinance update isn't going to touch the fees. It's only addressing state law.
Well, you mentioned inspections and all that, and that's part of the fee thing, so
Yeah.
that's why I asked the question.
It's the cost of doing the business that we have to impose those fees. Because the board wants the department to be cost recovery. We'll never be 100% cost recovery because a lot of we establish a fee to cover the majority of the work, but realistically, it costs a lot more to do the permit administration and SMART administration. Online, Jennifer, do you have any questions? That's it. There's no changes. And like I said, once we submit the preliminary draft to the SMGB for their early consultation. We will obtain comments, pop those into the ordinance, and then create a public draft so people can see what we're doing. And then you'll be able to compare it with what's already there. So again, we're not doing anything out of the ordinary. We're not, again, making it more restrictive. We're just adding those changes that the state wants us to do. And again, we're gonna get ahead of this before the state sends us a letter. And the state's already been told that we're on our way. And so the county, prior to 1999, went through a process where its ordinance was found inadequate and lost its authority for almost 8 months. And so we do not want a repeat of that. We want to make sure that the county retains all of its permit authority under SMART. So we're trying to get ahead of the game.
So I think once this ordinance is completed and concluded and certified, we're gonna create a website. It's gonna have a link to the ordinance and then a breakdown of the process, timelines, dates, that kind of stuff. It's long overdue, I know, everybody's been asking for
And
it.
all the acronyms.
Yeah, so that will occur.
We're basically looking at what other counties are doing, and we're gonna try to create a model template that we can put into the county's website and have a SMART page so that you can download documents, you can see what's going on as far as how our process goes. There's a lot of acronyms in mining, unless you do this all the time. One word is SMART, that's an acronym. Surface Mining Reclamation Act of 1976. A FACE, it's a Financial Assurance Cost Estimate. These are all things that are acronyms that everybody doesn't really know or understand. What we want to do is create a website that has an easy step-by-step process, as well as links to the state, as well as links to other public agencies that oversee mining in California, so that you can find it as a resource that you can go to. But again, we're waiting until this ordinance is gone through the process so we can then put the ordinance up there as well.
You know, the county's been lacking in that area. So we're gonna get that up to date.
And I think a lot of it is for many years, the county did not have a full-time or permanent mining planner. I think we've had in the last 10 years, a consultant and 3 planners that have come and gone. And so there's always been this, who's gonna be my SMART planner this next year? Who's gonna be my inspector this next year? Well, Dirk's been with the county for over 20 years, maybe 25, I think.
Almost 30.
Almost 30, and so he's been doing this now for 3 years.
Yeah.
And so he's gonna stick around for a while.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
So, yeah, and that's why we're here today, is to let you know who we are and what we're doing and so on and so on.
So when do you think the website will be ready?
I would say we're targeting about 6 months from now, because we have to work with IT, we have to work in finding documents.
This has to be approved, right?
Yeah.
By the commission and so.
So the website, Dirk's already begun that process of beginning to work with folks out there and trying to get this thing up and running. But we'd like to make it a depository for all SMART-related documents. Larry had asked a question earlier about process and when you do certain things. And that's what we want to make sure is, we want to put a step-by-step process. What's the process? In other words, you start with your rec plan. You have your inspection. You have your financial assurance cost estimate. You have your review of your bond or your financial assurance mechanism. So on and so on. And the process, we want to go ahead and put all that together. I think some counties do something similar. We've been studying everybody's websites out there, and I think what we want to do is put something together that really will help everybody. Because not everybody is a mining expert. And so we see a lot of small operations in this county, and we just wanna make sure that everybody has an opportunity to find their resources there. So, projects in the making. Any other questions?
Sounds good to me.
Surprised we didn't have a bigger turnout. We actually publicized this and sent out notices, and all the operators got notices. It is 10:30 and we don't have anybody else jumping in.
Efficient.
Jennifer, any other questions, comments, anything else you want to add? Okay, so I would say well, first of all, we have a sign-in sheet here, and we know how to get a hold of you, Jennifer. But what we're going to do is we're going to do another email blast to everybody. When we get to that point where we're ready to go to publicizing the ordinance and then scheduling it for planning commission. Again, most of you may not have any issues with it. And if so, great. If you do, then let us know. Because we want your input on this, because a couple things, the state will ask, did you go out and talk to people? And we're gonna say, yes, we did. We had a outreach meeting today, we posted it on the web, we had a hearing before the planning commission, we had a hearing before the board, and opportunities were made so that everybody could provide input to us.
So you wanna try Amy again?
Is she there?
Let me try and let her in again, see if she can talk. Amy?
Amy, is there any comments, anything you'd like to add? And just out of curiosity, you represent who? Okay, Valley Rebel, good. So Dirk, why don't you go ahead and add Jennifer and Amy to the list here? And then this way we know that they attended. And again, by all means, if there's any questions, any comments, any concerns after today, or if something you think of after you leave here today, please contact us. That's what we're here for. Let us know. If a couple days from now something pops in your head and says, oh no, I wanted to mention this, by all means, either Dirk or myself, contact us and let us know, any concerns or issues that you have. And again, we'll be happy to reach back out to you and have those discussions. But I think our next step is to finish out our draft and send it to the SMGB for preliminary review and comment. And then once we get their comments back, we can then formalize and create a draft to go to the planning commission. And then at that point, we'll notify everybody of the hearing date. So I would assume the state will take a month or two to review. They tell me 30 days, but they're behind right now. And at that point, we should receive their comments and put them in the draft ordinance and then move it forward. So I would say, based on my experience with the state, is we will probably go to planning commission after the first of the year, is what we're looking at right now. Because I know they have 2 ordinances in queue right now, and we're gonna be the 3rd one. That's my goal. And after that, we'll just wait to hear. One of the things that they're doing is they're having their council attorneys look at also to make sure that we're all abiding by SMART.
We have this in place and the state makes changes later down the road. This stays until we update it again.
So thank you for asking that question. Okay, so already in our ordinance, see what's helped us so far is Section 22-16-030 says incorporation of SMARA and other state regulations. It reads right now under the current ordinance, the provisions of SMARA, Public Resources Code Section 2207 and the California Code of Regulations implementing the Act, Section 3675 and 3676, Chapter 2, Division 1, and so on. It says, as those provisions may be amended from time to time are made as part of this chapter by reference with the same force and effect as if provisions therein were specifically and fully set out herein, except that where the provisions of this chapter are more restrictive than correlative state provisions, this chapter shall prevail. So basically what we did back in 1999 is we added the incorporation of SMARA and state regs. So should SMARA change, it forces the county to incorporate those changes automatically, which is what we're doing. The only change we're proposing to add is add a sentence to that that says, in the event that the state amends SMARA to the extent that it adds to or conflicts with this chapter, state law shall prevail. That's basically all we're gonna do. But at this point, this is why they haven't said, tag, you're it. They're just saying, oh, you've already added that language in your 99 ordinance, and all we're gonna do is further say, if it changes, we just run with the changes. So we're good right now. And we're just gonna make that even better language so that they can't come back and say, oh, we changed the law, now you have to go ahead and change immediately, or else. Because this way it says, even if the law changes, state law is still gonna prevail. Good question, thank you. Any other questions?
Ms. Gomez has her hand up.
Jennifer? Oh, okay, looked like you had your hand up. So I can tell you some of the changes that we're already looking at is in SMARA, they have language in there that talks about emergency excavations, grading by the Department of Water Resources. Now, a lot of this applies really to areas where they have direct jurisdiction. Areas where, especially the Central Valley. However, we don't have that, but we're still required to put that language in there. Should the Department of Water Resources ever come into this county and they have to do emergency grading, they would be exempt from SMARA. Some of the other things, we're cleaning up our language by cleaning up our definitions. We are adding a definition to define what a FACE is, a financial assurance cost estimate. We're defining a reclamation plan and a reclamation plan amendment. The other thing that the state wants in all ordinances is this term called substantial deviation or non-substantial deviation. We right now refer to it as an amendment to the rec plan. And one of the things that we built into the ordinance back in '99 is we have these minor modifications. So should a mine operator wish to change, let's say for example, the seed mixture, it would not require you to go back to the planning commission. It would be something that could be done at the staff level. So we call them minor mods. The state wants now to refer to them as non-substantial deviations. It's state law, okay? We do not have a definition for an interim management plan, an IMP. We're gonna add that in there. When mines become idle and so on. Let's see. The other thing too is, back then when we did the ordinance, the state was referred to as the Office of Mine Reclamation. It is now the Division of Mine Reclamation. So those changes have to be made. The other thing is we did not have a very good definition of vested right. We now have to have one of those definitions in there. As far as reclamation plan form and content, we actually have a pretty good section 22-16080. I think all we're going to do is just add that the plan, that the reclamation plan be formatted in such a fashion that follows the reclamation plan content checklist as adopted by the Department of Conservation. And that's all we're adding, because we've already captured a lot of those things in our ordinance. And then the other thing is we're adding the recordation of rec plan approval. We are further defining what an idle mine is in the ordinance and the process. And financial assurances, we are amending that section 22-16120 to conform to state law, and as well as the process itself. And then annual inspections. The state has this requirement that you inspect every 12 months, so we're putting that into the ordinance. The state also requires that every inspector now be certified by the Division of Mine Reclamation, and that became effective in 2018. So both Dirk and I are inspectors, and we have to be certified every 5 years. They want that captured in the ordinance also, that you are inspected by somebody who's certified. And also, it requires that we review and update financial assurances annually. That has to be spelled out in the ordinance. And then just better defining the vested right process, how one applies for a vested right, how one goes through the hearing process and what's submitted. And then I think that's about it that we're looking at. Other than that, I think our ordinance is pretty well intact. So those are just some of the changes in summary of what we're looking at.
And again, not really changes, we already do a lot of this.
We already do that.
Yeah,
All
we're just
doing is-
adding the language.
Right, we're adding the language to the ordinance, we're not, like Dirk says, we're not changing it. We already do it, we're just putting it in there. What's required already, we're doing it. So nothing additional, that's all I can say, is nothing additional to what we already did. And that's really about it.
Okay, thank you.
So if there's no other questions, comments, that would pretty much, end this outreach.
Thanks, Amy and Jennifer.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you participating. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye. And what we had out there are copies of the current ordinance. So if you're not familiar with it, you can take a copy of it.
We've been doing all this. So you guys are good, we're working through it, you guys are renewing the rec plan, I'm still working on that. We're good, as long as it's in process, you guys are okay.
Yep. And then, regarding the ordinance, this is my contact information.
Oh. All right.
Larry, I'll call you in a week or so.